darkness, I found my light. With Jesus by my side, I conquer every fight. Walking in faith, I won't be afraid. His love surrounds me, my fears will fade. Hope is my anchor, love is my guide. With Jesus I'll overcome, I'll never hide. A warrior of strength, in His name I rise. In a world of chaos, His love never dies.
She's an award-winning author, speaker, owner of GodlyGranny.com, and podcast host, sharing the truth with you. This is The Michelle Moore Show.
Hi, everybody. So glad that you're with us today. We've got Constitutionalists Jack and Margy here helping out with Tom Olmsted. He's going to be here sharing what happened. He had been arrested 4 different times or had run-ins with the law. And so we're going to hear about some of these details and some lessons he's learned in his journey of what I would say waking up and what's really going on. We're going to talk a little bit about the nationalist thing, you know, the state nationals, just in case you're familiar with that. We're going to talk about some of his insight because he's been down that road as well. And we're going to cover all of our kinds of things. So I'm very excited about that. Happy Friday. Have you got big plans for the weekend? I'm getting my hair done tomorrow. That's my big plans. Hanging out with Flash Moore. He's over here in the bed. He's sleeping while I'm working. I just want to say, so Skater9, I saw in the live chat, Skater9's comment. She says, "Hi, Godly Granny family. I am amazed. Place an order for detergent and 10 minutes," she says. 10 minutes later, got a notice that it was already for shipping. This crew is amazing. Well, we don't do that with every order, but we were able to do that apparently in your order. So we got a great crew working at the Granny Shack for Godly Granny. If you haven't checked out our products, make sure that you go to godlygranny.com and check out all the goodies. We got all different kinds. I was thinking, so I got an email from a lady who asked me what were my 10 top, like my favorites. And I realized they change because, you know, depending on what I've got going on in my life or what products we've released recently. You know, I was telling the girls at the Granny Shack yesterday, I was like, I love the Samson's Mane 7-in-1 super spray, but that wouldn't have been a top 10 a month ago because we didn't have it. So it just changes. And I think it also kind of adjusts and changes too, just based on what's going on in my own life and which products I'm using at the time. But anyways, okay. So, I'm excited, y'all, about today. This has been a long time coming. For those of you that have been watching the Michelle Moore Show for a long time, y'all know about Jack and Margy helping a gentleman named Tom. And in fact, at one point, they even had a call to action for us, and many of us wrote letters. And so on Tom Olmsted's behalf, trying to make sure that he got the help needed possible as he was being done wrong and so unlawfully. And so it made a difference. And we're going to talk about that today. We're really excited to hear the details straight from Tom Olmsted. But we're going to go on ahead and bring Tom and Jack and Margy Flynn in. So that way, Jack and Margy are here today because they assisted him throughout the process. And we want them to weigh in on some of the details as well. So let's go on ahead and bring them in. Hi, Tom. How are you doing?
Hello, Michelle. I'm doing great. I hope you're doing the same.
I'm doing fabulous. Hey, Jack, Margy, glad you're here with us today.
Hello, Tom.
Hello.
Okay, so let's go on ahead and get started. So, Tom, so you had a waking up process, and in that waking up process, at some point, you learn about the state nationals. And so how can you kind of give a little bit of details about that? Some people are going to be watching, have their own experiences already with the state national groups. Some don't know anything. So just kind of give some kind of an idea of what that is and what your experience was and how long.
Sure. Yeah, sure would. And thanks again, Michelle, for making me a part of this show. And of course, with my great friends, Jack and Margy Flynn. You know, I had an awakening on the early in the morning after the 2020 election. It was November 5th, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was balled up and I was just a basket case. And I couldn't calm down. I was a nervous wreck because I could see before my eyes that 2020 election was being stolen. They had shut everything down, and it was clear to anybody with with eyes and a brain and discernment that something really seriously wrong was afoot.
Yes.
And as balled up as I was, it was 3 a.m. and I was trying to sleep. This is after they had postponed, shut the election results down because they had a water break and all this stuff. I knew what was going on. I didn't know specifically, but I knew. And all of a sudden I felt the Spirit move over me, the Holy Spirit. That's the only thing I can say that it possibly was. And this sense of calm immediately fell upon me. And I could feel the Spirit talking to me. And this is what it said to me. It's like, don't worry about this. I got this. Just as simple as that. And I went immediately to sleep. The next day on my feed, whatever I was watching at the time, YouTube or whatever it was, I started seeing stuff about 1871 and the corporation. And then I saw this and I saw that. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to see all this information and go, so, you know what? I need to look into this. And it wasn't too much longer after that, that I start seeing these feeds for people like, David Lester Straight and those state national types. They seem to be all over the place right after the stolen election, like they popped out of nowhere. And I gravitated to that. Me being a lifelong Republican, conservative, follower of Fox News before all this and Mark Levin and all that stuff. I started listening to some of this stuff, and before you know it, I was head fast into what they call the state national movement behind some of these folks. And I spent the next, year and a half or so on a journey. I've went to some of these speaker meetings. I met Straight personally a couple of different times, and his wife. They're very charming people. And what I was learning along the way is they had a lot of good information, Michelle, a lot of good information, because I could verify it, know it's true. But as I kept going into it, I realized that their methods were all based in some kind of a fee. Hey, give me $80 and I'll send you a thumb drive with my documents on it, and you can get out of paying the IRS or whatever it is, And these methods, you could go through the chats on some of these feeds, and you could see example after example where people were, hey, I did this and I got jackpotted, I got arrested or this or that. And I'm thinking, well, gee, I don't think I want to use any of these methods. And, it wasn't too long after that, somewhere around 2022, that I'm feeling a little bit discouraged. I know something's terribly wrong, right? And I've got this information, and then I'm watching
Biden's president. Something's terribly wrong.
81 million votes and can't fog a mirror, can't fill up the press circles at a rally, And so yeah, something's really wrong. And all the AI, and you're still not going to convince me that that guy that was there for 4 years was actually Joe Biden, the senator from Delaware. And you're not going to convince me of that. It was not the same person, and the AI and this and that. But one day I was watching, and there was a program that popped up, and it was this fellow that calls himself Mel Carmine. That may be his name. He's a big expert guy, Michelle. You might know who I'm talking about. I don't follow any of that. I don't do that. If it's not gold and silver or a house, I don't normally invest. But they had a couple guests on there, and it was these two right here. And they were sharing their constitutional series on his show, and there was either 10 or 12 different videos that they were doing live, and I watched each one of those over a course of several days, and felt like I got to know Jack and Margy Flynn a little bit. And it says, wow, these methods are all constitutional based. This is I didn't know some of this stuff, and I thought, you know what? I got on their website, Citizens of the American, or let's see, what is it? Citizens of the American Constitution.net. I believe that's right. Yeah. And had a phone number on there, and I called them, and they actually answered. So I introduced myself, and I said, hey, how you guys doing? And, I've got a little court case over in a neighboring town. I'm just kind of curious of what you would do if you were in my shoes. And that's where it started with me and them. So it didn't take me long to get away from the state national movement. You know, the state nationals think you got to go correct your status and do all this stuff. And you know, you don't have to do any of that. You have to know your rights. You have to know who you are, know what you are, know what the law is, and who the enemy is. And if you know those four things, then you're in a good spot to claim and exercise your inherent constitutionally secured rights, and then move forward with whatever you think is right to do. But that was my experience with the state national folks.
So Tom, when you reached out, what was it that you ended up asking their advice for?
Well, yeah, my mic's still on. Somebody's muted. It's probably not me. I had a city government was trying to tell me on one of my rental properties, about 30 minutes to the west, they were trying to tell me and dictate to me that I had to have their blessing before I could rent that property in a short-term manner, you know, like an Airbnb or a VRBO, to use the trade name. Mm-hmm. Well, that didn't set well with me. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not giving you money and registering my property and going through these restrictions and this and that. And I got it. I was involved in this case before I knew Jack and Margy. So I had started this case, and then they came into my life, and I had already made some mistakes. And once I got to know them, then I discussed with them, hey, here's what's going on. And if you were me, guys, what would you do? And they didn't, you know, they don't tell people what to do. They don't do work for people. They come from the angle, as do I, of, hey, you know what? If I were in your shoes, this is what I do. Sure. And these are the and they told me that these are the constitutional solutions that we've used for 50 years to help thousands of people win. So, you know, if you want to use these TO, great. If you don't, you know, have a nice life, but this is what works. And you're asking the question, they said, so, you know, here, take a look at this. And that's what happened. And then that case over there ended up getting dismissed. They figured out they probably didn't want any part of me. Now I must disclose that I got thrown in jail for 14 days on a contempt charge. And we can talk about this later, but, you know, freedom is great, but you have to be prepared for what comes sometimes. And if you are not, maybe, as I should say, operating 100% from an honorable position, you know, these people in these courts, a lot of times they don't know what to do when somebody like me or Jack and Margy shows up. And a hothead like me, who in the past has had trouble keeping his head, you know, that doesn't suit you well when you're in their playground, because, you know, make no mistake, you're not in a court of law. You're in a corporate administrative tribunal that operates solely for profit. What you're there for is a banking transaction. You're not there for justice. So it's their playground. And unless you know how to claim and exercise your inherent rights lawfully and peacefully, you could end up in handcuffs. And that's happened a couple of times to me, but it's not going to happen again. Not if I can help it.
That's enough.
Okay, so Jack, Margy, when Tom reached out to you about his situation, what led you to help him?
Well,
initially, I got an immediate sense that Tom was the real deal, that he was actually a living, breathing man who knew that and was willing to make the effort to commit himself to learning our methods because he believed that they work. I think he felt a sense of honesty and commitment with us, and it was mutual. And he told us what was going on, and we said, well, if we were you, we would do thus and so. And he said, okay, and he followed through. Now, some people kind of go cowboy. They listen to some of what you say, but they don't get it all, and so they don't follow through properly. And eventually they're probably not going to succeed because they missed some key steps. Tom didn't do that. Tom paid attention. He did the work himself. He would consult with us every now and again when he was unsure of something, and we'd say, well, okay, yeah, this is good. We would do it this way, what have you. And so he prevailed in this situation. And I think he might have been a little bit surprised when he did, because he had not had very good experiences with the local governments, I'll put it that way. And I'm not sure he thought he was going to be able to succeed on this particular one. And this, again, had to do with his property in another city or town. And so I think he was surprised, but he was pleased. And then he had some additional things come up because they've been kind of dogging him for a while, and got back with us on that. And we said, this is what we do. We talked it over. We sent him some information that we thought would be helpful for him because it was a travel situation. And he picked it right up, and he hit the ground running and did exactly what we would do. Send affidavits, basically challenged the system constitutionally, and he stayed his ground. And because he did, eventually, all of those cases that he had encountered, even ones that had been a year or two before, were wiped off the books. That doesn't happen. He even got his money back, and that doesn't happen either. And we know why. They would never publicly admit that they did what they did because he used constitutional methods to supersede theirs. But that's what happened. And it's because Tom stayed the course. He listened, he paid attention, he asked good questions, and he has courage, he has conviction of the heart, he has commitment, and he believes in something larger than himself. He's I would say, connected to the consciousness of the Creator, which is something we should all be connecting to on a regular basis. And because of that, it was kind of simpatico with us, and we've become friends through our association, and we love him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I agree with everything Margie said. When Tom called, I picked up the phone. And at that time, I think around your show, and we were getting lots of calls from lots of people all the time. I mean, the phone never stopped, okay? And both of us had been going through some health problems, especially me, heart problems. And there were certain things I just couldn't do anymore, okay? And that was it. And I said to Tom, listen, I'm very glad you called. We'll be happy to talk with you. But you must understand that if you're going to do this, you have to do it right, okay? There's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. If you do it the wrong way, you're going to lose. If you do it the right way, you have an excellent chance winning, okay? But we don't do it for you, like Tom said, all right? We used to do work for people all the time. I mean, we were crazy. Like 30 years, we were doing documents for people. No, you would 24, that was a 24-hour-a-day deal, okay? We couldn't do that. We had to back off. So Tom understood. He said, look, I just want to know the right way, and I want to know what to do to get these SOBs, okay? And that's exactly what they are.
He said he would do the work, and he did.
He said he would do the work. He just wanted some lead time, okay? He wanted some suggestions. And as you know, we don't, like Tom said, and we've said, we don't do the work for people, but we'll tell you what we would do specifically. I mean, not in a general sense, but in a very specific sense, due to the specific situation that you're facing, okay? So Tom understood that. And like Margie said, he's a different guy. I mean, he impressed me as one who has a high degree of consciousness and a high degree of concern for the nation, not just for himself, the nation as well. So, yes. And, you know, as we said before, our society is not an ethical society. It's not a moral society. Now, obviously, there are ethical and moral people in this society, but not the society itself. So Tom picked up on it right away. He was an excellent student, okay? He did his own work, all right? He took our suggestions, and he won 5 cases against this intentionally corrupt system that we have in this country. And that's remarkable as far as I'm concerned.
And I can tell you that Tom shared with us that initially his friends and lots of his family were kind of giving him a hard time about it, saying, oh, you're crazy. Right, Tom?
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember being in jail and coming out after, well, I had a 20-day sentence for contempt, which is a completely bogus
Absolutely.
charge. And he gets me on the phone, and one of my brothers, he gets me on the phone and he says, "Hey, you're embarrassing the family."
Jeez.
It's like, well, I'm sorry, I'm embarrassing your family, but what I wanted to say is I'm embarrassing that you're my brother and you're not willing to bleed for this nation.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell him that because I don't want to hurt him. I love him, but that's what's going through my mind.
Mhm.
And Michelle, we have to remain teachable. I'm 63 years old. I'm a boomer. I'm the youngest of the boomers, so everybody else is it's 63 and dead all the way up, right? And but one thing that I've learned in my life after being a recovered alcoholic of 28 years and working with drunks and drug addicts and being able to get my arms around a God that I could finally understand, what I realized was a lot of things, but I have to remain teachable. And if I'm ever in the spot, no matter how old I am or what I think I know, if I'm ever in the spot that I think that I've arrived, okay, I can't be taught anything, then I'm going to be left behind. I'm going to be left behind spiritually and in everything else. And I try to take that to heart and try to understand that, all right, this isn't fit my paradigm, but I need to listen to what this person is saying. And then I need to run it through the wheelhouse of, logic, common sense. Is it godly, this and that, and the next thing. And the Fox boomers can't do that. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of that. And that's, it could be argued that's part of the reason why we're in the shape that we're in. It's because people just aren't teachable. But to defend some of those, Michelle, just real quick, and then won't filibuster the broadcast. These lies, they get us with these lies. And how do you get a society to take Genesis and wad it up and throw it in the trash bin? Well, you get little minds of mush, don't you? That don't have any reason, that don't have the ability to discern. They don't have a memory bank that they can draw off of yet. So you get them like they did me in kindergarten when I was 4 years old, and they start hammering the lies. And the biggest one of all, of course, is that we're on a spinning ball corkscrewing through space in a godless existence. That's how they get God out of stuff. And they say, well, no, it's evolution. The world's not 6,000 years old. It's over here. It's Newton. It's this and that. It's gravity. It's blah, blah, blah. So the lies start when we're little. And these Fox boomers, some of these folks who've been on the rock 70, 80 years, their entire paradigm, their entire life, that all they've ever heard of these lies. The Earth's a spinning ball. We don't live on a flat realm. You got to pay your taxes. You got to work hard and achieve the American dream. You got to go to college, and then blah, 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 on and on and on it goes, and all these things. And it's almost impossible, it seems, for some of these folks to step back and go, this friend of mine, T.O., is saying the exact opposite, but everybody on Fox News and all my politicians and everybody else in the media is saying this. So I'm going to go with them. To hell with T.O.
Well, I experienced that even during COVID, with my own family. I asked my kids, years later, did you think I was nuts? Everybody at the grocery store is wearing a mask, and I'm telling people that we're not participating. And they said, well, you have to remember, we were, kids at the time. We were 13 and 14, and we thought you know everything anyways. And so they said, no, we never doubted that you knew what you were talking about. But also, I was with them and was able to say, see this video, see this here. And so, there were a few things I would show them or tell them. They weren't 25 years old, so I wanted to watch how much they found out and how quickly. But but I told them the truth, and no matter what. And so, but they weren't surprised about it. And but we were in an environment where the few of us that was speaking up, it was a few. And obviously we know now these crazy statistics about how many people took the shot, and at least 1 or 2 boosters. So I think we're all in that at some point, and those my viewers are what we call awake. But that's part of it. I think a lot of the Michelle family I think a lot of the Michelle family is cut off from their grandkids because they wouldn't take the shot. Their children have ostracized them and won't let the grandkids be around. They are lonely because they don't have friends a lot of times that understand. Their friends got the shot. Their friends do what they're told to do. And they're not free thinkers. We have a community. We have a country that we say we're told, we're raised being told that we're free, only to find out. And I said this the other day to somebody, I think it was producer Ron. I said, I was thinking about it, or it was Jack and Margy. I think it was producer Ron though. And I said, I was thinking about it. And I said, they tell us we're free, which we already know that's, but how are you free when you have to account for all your money and what you make, and then have to pay almost 40% or 30 something percent? Like, it's insane to think you're free. It's insane.
That's correct.
I couldn't, I know Jack and Margy, and I feel this exact same way. I like to ask people this question. So, home of the brave, land of the free, home of the brave. We're neither.
Yeah.
Jack Flynn talks about this incessantly. Let me ask you a question out there in Michelle Moreland, and you guys get it, but you might ask some of these questions to people who are giving you a hard time. Do free people give 50-60% back to the government in all forms of taxation that they make a year? Do free people do that? Do free people grovel and ask permission from the state to get in your private automobile and drive down to Neiman's and get a gallon of milk? Do free people ask permission to do that? Do free people petition the city to grovel and ask their permission to let me paint the house that I supposedly own a certain color? Do free people do that? Do free people enter into all these adhesion contracts without the terms and the conditions being rightfully disclosed? Driver's license, marriage license, on and on and on and on, that have no consideration because they don't benefit us in any way. No, free people don't do that. So we're not free, as you said, and we haven't been for a very long time. The problem is, we live in a corporate communist Leviathan, if you want to get right down to it, that worships and operates by the 10 bullet points of the Communist Manifesto and not the 10 first articles of the Constitution. And Michelle, real quick, we could prove this to people. When I make a statement like that, that sounds kind of outrageous. But if you took, and you could go on Chat GPT and you could ask Chat GPT, they'll give it to you. Give me the 10 bullet points of the 1848 Karl Marx Communist Manifesto. About 3 seconds, you'll have it. Print it off on your printer, sit down, and then read it. Go through it point by point. And then ask yourself as you're reading each one, is that indicative of the state of affairs in this country today? And then contrast that, print off the Bill of Rights and go through that one amendment at a time and ask yourself the same question. Is this what's going on in this country today? By the time you're done, you're going to be upset, maybe.
Yeah.
I had a different word for it because I hadn't seen it in black and white. So this country operates under the Communist Manifesto, the courts, the government, everybody, not the Constitution, but they give it lip service as if they do. The American people, I think, this is my opinion, are the only people on the face of the rock that live under abject communism, but have no idea it's so.
That's correct.
That's a good point. Let's look here. So most people are leadable. FNR says they're not teachable, unfortunately. And, there's a saying, I have a business background, and my business background included saying that, and I was a teacher, I had a real estate school and taught real estate agents how to sell real estate. And one of the things that we used to say is leaders are learners. You never stop learning. And
That's
so
right.
you've got, if you want to lead, you got to lead yourself. No one's going to follow someone who's toe up from the flow up. And so you got to first have it together and be on time and, all that kind of stuff. But do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it and all that. But the fact of the matter is, what I ended up learning and realizing what I learned was that a lot of people are not interested in learning. They're in their own thing, and and so. But FNR is correct. So, anyways, okay. So you end up where you have all these different times you've been pulled over. So tell the audience a little bit about the background on what happened and unpack that for us, Tom.
Sure. Well, Gaze, Illinois, I joke the 2-story outhouse, but that's our claim to fame. That's where I come from, about 250 people. The town right next door is a town called Mattoon. It's in central Illinois. That's really irrelevant, but it's a small town. It's like Mayberry. Everybody knows your business. And if they don't, they'll make something up, right? That's how it works. So I've been around these parts for a long time. Everybody knows everybody, right? It's a town of 18,000 people. Well, here comes OTO in his red truck, smoking cigars, petting his dog. Well, one day, about, 4 years ago. Now, again, remember, I'd been through the state national stuff. I had decided that, you know what? I'm not going to renew my driver's license. The hell with that. I don't need it. I have an inherent right to travel, which I do. We can talk about that in a minute. I don't need that. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to register my truck anymore. And I kept my insurance, but I just didn't have the insurance stock yet in my truck. Long story short, so I get pulled over one time for not using a turn signal. Okay, the guy whips behind me. I said, well, this ought to be interesting. And of course, the first thing, you know why I pulled you over? Then I went through the spiel, and he wanted my driver's license. I didn't present my driver's license because I didn't have one. And I said, hey, I'm a traveler in my private business affairs. I'm not a driver. And that's where it starts. So their bells and whistles in their head go off. They're trained to treat people like that as what they call sovereign citizens, which is an FBI moniker, which is a 3-letter agency that's supposed to alert these law enforcement that, hey, you got a domestic enemy on your hands right here. You got a sovereign citizen. You got to take action against this. When that is the 180-degree lie of what a sovereign citizen actually is. But according to law enforcement, that's what you are. So I didn't get arrested, but I got a ticket for not having a driver's license, not providing insurance, and not having registration on my truck. So now 2 weeks later, it happens again because it's a small town. I got to have my coffee. I got to go around and I got to conduct business, right? I got to buy cigars every, so often. And so here they're laying for me. So here they come again. Different cop, but he knows, they all know, hey, this dude don't have a driver's license. We're going to smack this guy. So once again, you go through the whole spiel. Here's a whole nother set of tickets. No driver's license, no insurance, no registration. Now, these incidents are 2 weeks apart, Michelle. They're 2 weeks apart. And of course, you've got 30 days to appear, right? Well, after I get the second group of tickets, the state of Illinois, the Secretary of State, decides that they're going to suspend my license. I still don't know how you suspend something you don't have, but I don't try to figure out the government. Maybe I'm just too dense to know. But so they suspend my driver's license. So my court date's coming up on these tickets. Pretty close. It's been 30 days. Well, I get thrown in jail over in this other town on a contempt charge because I pushed the judge in that Airbnb hearing probably a little bit farther than I should have. She didn't know what to do. So throw this yahoo in jail and let's call it contempt. So I couldn't appear for these two cases because I was in jail. So what I did, Michelle, on those first two cases is I went ahead online and paid the fines to make those first two cases go away. I hope I'm not losing anybody. And so those two cases I wanted to fight. I hadn't met these two yet. Okay. So I was doing state national stuff and making mistakes and writing on the ticket, I do not consent, and mail them back to them. That's not the way you do it. That's nonsense. But I didn't know that at the time. Well, then I meet Jack and Margy, as I said before, and then my other case gets dismissed. And then about 4 or 5 months later, Michelle, I get stopped for a third time by this police department. Now, these boys know that I'm driving on a suspended at this point. So they pull me over, they impound my truck, They gave me a ticket for driving on a suspended and no proof of insurance, and maybe pet my dog, but I'm not sure if they actually gave me that one or not. So I went to court. Now, this time I did it right. I used the constitutional toolbox that it was afforded me by the people who created this government, and that was shown to me in detail by those two sitting right below me. So what I did is I did the process from start to finish the way I would tell anybody to do it. And we're assuming that we don't commit crimes. You know, anytime something like this happens, you get pulled over or you get sideways with somebody in authority, I always have to ask myself this question: did I commit a crime? And are my rights being violated? Which one is it? Because a crime under the common law, if we're going to operate as flesh and blood men and women under the common law, which is the Constitution, a crime requires an injured party, which is another man or woman who breathes in and out and breathes, that can verify a claim, write an affidavit and say, hey, that's the guy right there that did X, Y, Z and violated my rights. So that's what needed to happen.
When you pulled over, there's no victim. So
exactly right. These are victimless crimes. Yeah. So immediately I had to get to work, and this is what I had to do. All right, my Fourth Amendment right was violated. My Fifth Amendment right was violated, as was my Eighth, my Ninth, and my 10th by this third stop. All right. So what's the first thing I did? The first thing I did, and I wasted no time, because time is of the essence, because you got to appear in court in 30 days. So I immediately went to work. All the officers that were involved, I drafted a constitutional affidavit declaration of truth. Okay. It's the same one. It's a template that you could catch on citizensoftheamericanconstitution.net. You know, you can pick a sample up there if someone needed help on how to do this. But basically what this is it's under the pains and penalty of perjury. I'm putting the truth onto the record. Okay. So the first paragraph is who I am. The second paragraph is exactly the chronological order of what happened, truthfully, without hyperbole or emotion or, God forbid, lies. The next paragraph is, what are the constitutional positions that these folks broke by their actions here? The next paragraph is what we call the lawful warning. If you don't respond back, Joe Blow, Officer Joe Blow, and we're writing these in their private capacity, by the way, not as officer. They're in their private capacity because they perjured their oath of office. Okay. So we write them in their private capacity, and it says, you have 15 days to respond. I like to give 15 days, especially when you got to appear in 30. You have 15 days to respond in kind with particularity and specificity, point by point, to anything in this affidavit that you don't agree with. Okay. If you fail to do that within the 15 days noted here, then through your binding tacit agreement, Joe Blow, that you will agree with all the statements, averments, charges that I make in my affidavit as being true, binding upon you in any court in the land and by those who might represent you. You sign it. You send it registered mail, return receipt. You get it notarized. Notice I said registered mail, return receipt. You want the Pony Express on this. You want chain of custody. You don't want you want the de jure post office. You don't want the de facto one. So it's registered mail, return receipt. So you got a chain of custody that they received it. And Michelle, after it comes back, you'll get the green slip when they actually received it. So now your clock starts. The next day, my 15-day clock starts. Okay. After 15 days, after they received it, that affidavit becomes an unrebutted affidavit, which stands as truth in fact in any court in this land. It's binding in any court. They've got to recognize it. So this is one of the most powerful things I have to do at the very beginning before I'm going to go to court, is I have to have those affidavits in place to become unrebutted affidavits of the people that violated my rights. And then, Michelle, before I even show up in court, and of course, the whole game here is to avoid going to court If you can stay out of court, folks, it's my suggestion. I don't give advice. It's my suggestion that you stay the hell out of there, because these people, they do not have your best interest in heart. You're there for a banking transaction. They're pilfering your trust that was created with your birth certificate. That's the reason for the bonds and whatnot that are sold out the back door of the courthouse. Okay. You don't know all this, but that's what's going on. So you stay out of court if you can. But if not, I'm also going to draft a motion to dismiss, and I'm going to draft a challenge of jurisdiction. These documents precede me. I file them on the case. They precede my appearance. And you get those done just as quickly as you can. Don't wait till the day before, because you want Mr. Prosecutor and you want the folks there to see these documents in advance of you showing up. The motion to dismiss is the first paragraph. I'm setting my lawful status before the court, Michelle. I'm a flesh and blood man on the land, with and claiming all of my inherent constitutionally secured rights. I don't waive any of them ever. I'm not the all capital letters, nom de guerre, legal fiction, 14th Amendment person that the court is trying to assume and presume me to be, on and on and on and on. Here are the constitutional positions that support this motion to dismiss. Then I give the constitutional positions that support why they should dismiss this case. Okay. And I sign it, file it, and serve Mr. Prosecutor with them. Same way with the challenge of jurisdiction, kind of the same thing. I set my lawful status, then I tell them why they have no jurisdiction to hear this case. Something along the lines of Article 3 does not delegate any authority for-profit corporations to masquerade as legitimate constitutional governments because they're listed on Dun & Bradstreet, and here's their DUNS number. This court, State of Illinois, City of Mattoon, on down the line, they operate outside the scope and the lawful authority of the constitutional republic. Therefore, they don't constitutionally even exist. And when a court doesn't have any constitutional jurisdiction, the only thing they can do is dismiss any case ahead of it with prejudice. And I so move, sign up, blah, blah, blah. There's my challenge of jurisdiction. So these things are on file. And I might attach my affidavits to the motion to dismiss, or at the very least, file them in on the case. What I'm seeing here locally is when they don't deny the motion to dismiss right out of the gate, and if I have my affidavits attached to it, they like to pretend like those went away with the motion. Well, they don't. Mm-hmm. So you can file them with the case or whatever. And then when the day comes, Michelle, when the day comes for me to show up, I'm not going in like a ragamuffin, right? I'm gonna look good. I'm gonna have a suit on. I'm gonna have my, I'm gonna take a bath. I'm gonna comb my hair. I'm gonna smell good. I'm gonna look sharp. I'm gonna act sharp. I'm gonna carry I'm 6'2". I'm white-headed. So that might be an unfair advantage to some people, but that's okay. I'll take it. I need all the help I can get. So I'm walking in that court in honor. I'm showing my respect, because that place is supposed to be an honorable place. They're in dishonor. Okay. The whole thing's dishonorable. But I'm not going to operate there. I'm going to operate in honor. So I'm going to dress up, and I'm going to show these guys all the respect that their office or so-called office requires. I'm not going to get in an argument with them, but I'm going to do what Jack and Margy, when he calls the case, I'm going to do what Jack and Margy calls 1A, 1B, and 2A. And can I go ahead and tell them, or you guys want to tell them?
You say it, bro.
I've heard us say it enough times. You say it.
You're doing it very good.
That sounds good. Michelle, every public servant has taken an oath to the Constitution. They can't get out. It's given in exchange by the people for the public trust. So anybody that serves in government, their permission slip from the people is the oath of office. And when they operate outside of that oath of office, they commit an insurrection. They do what's called warring against the Constitution. And so the oath is a powerful thing, because you can remove them with the 3rd and the 4th section of the 14th Amendment when they perjure their oath and war against the Constitution. This is the whole crux of 1A. So the guy will call the case, the judge. He'll call your name. The people versus John Olmsted. Now, remember, in traffic court, if you're in traffic court, they're herding 45 people in there in a session. They're herding them in like cats.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got everybody disheveled and they're coming in their flip flops and their heads down because they don't have a clue that they're being fleeced. They don't know what their rights are. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. Then there's me right in the front row. Okay, so they call my name. I walk up, I sit down at the table, throw that state national stuff out. Oh, don't touch the bar. You'll grant jurisdiction. Just go sit down. He's going to say the state's being represented by Mr. Prosecutor. He's here. Mr. Olmsted, I assume you're Mr. Olmsted. Are you ready to proceed? You know, he might say, state your name. But if he says, are you ready to go? I'm going to say, no, not right now, sir. At this time, there's a couple of matters that I need to address, which, of course, is my right under due process of law. So he's probably going to say, go ahead. And this is what I'm going to do 1A. And I like to have these documents in my hand, the judge's oath and the prosecutor's oath. I want to have them in my hand, and I can get those documents in advance. It's not a state secret. Sir, you and Mr. Prosecutor have taken these oaths to the national and state constitutions, and with all due respect, you're required to abide by these oaths in the performance of your official duties, especially those that come before this honorable court. Is that correct? Now, he may say yes. He's for sure not going to say no. I mean, he's not that stupid. But he may say yes. He probably won't. He'll probably deflect and hem and haw. And if he does that, when he takes a breath, I say, I'd like to enter these oaths of office in on the record and into evidence. And I'm going to try to get him to answer that confirming a question again, somehow without being argumentative. You know, so is that correct? You have to abide by these oaths? Yes, that's correct. And he may say yes, he may not. But if I get those oaths in on the record, I can't push him too far because they'll throw you in jail nowadays. You know, they won't mess around if they feel threatened at all. So I've done 1A and I've done 1B. And as soon as he's said yes, or I've entered those in, then I need to set my lawful status before the court. That's 2A. And it's going to look like something like this. I might say something along these lines. For the record, on the record, let the record show I'm here by special appearance as a flesh and blood man on the land with and claiming all of my inherent constitutionally secured rights. I don't waive any of them. My name is only lawfully spelled in upper and lower case. It's John Thomas Olmsted III. I'm not the all capital letters nom de guerre, the 14th Amendment person, the fiction, the sole prop that the state and the court is trying to assume and presume me to be. I'm an unincorporated free man on the land at the common law. Now I've set my lawful status before the court. I haven't appeared generally. I've appeared by special appearance. Okay. So now they can't say, well, you granted jurisdiction by showing up. No, I'm here by special appearance because I'm here to settle the matter today. And I've got to show up for court and settle it, because if I don't, they're going to issue an ex parte judgment and they could arrest me. So I have to go and appear. But these are the things that not only precede my appearance, but how that initial appearance goes. And then that first hearing is going to be this. He's going to ask you, it's going to be an arraignment. That first hearing is going to be called a first hearing, preliminary hearing, but it's an arraignment. And all he wants to know is this: Mr. Olmsted, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty? I'm going to say something along these lines. With all due respect, sir, I'm not here to enter a plea. I'm here to challenge the jurisdiction. And then if I can get it out without him interrupting me, I might say something like, and here are the constitutional positions that support the challenge. And then I go back to Article 3. There's no constitutional delegated authority for corporations to be government. If he lets me get that out, Michelle, he probably won't, because by this time he's madder than a mashed duck and he's ready to do whatever he can to get me the hell out of his court. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
these judges know, they know what they're doing.
They know what the racket is. They know damn good and well that bonds are being created. Bid bonds, payment bonds, performance bonds are created off these cause of actions that they enrich themselves with, and all this off-book money going into a CAFR fund. They know all about that, the trillions of dollars that go in there a year, but yet we're broke as a country. Yeah, I don't think so. But in any event, those are the things that have to happen preceding and when I first appear. And anytime I have to go to, if I can't get that thing dismissed at that first hearing and I got to go back, then once again, I'm going to set my lawful status before I begin. I've already got the oaths on file. I might gingerly try to say, you're still required to abide by your oaths. There's a fine line there. You got to be able to walk a fine line between being argumentative and being smug and a smart aleck in his eyes. Because if he senses that, he'll throw you in jail for contempt because they make the rules.
Which could change at any time.
That's
Yeah,
right.
because you're in an administrative tribunal. And you know how you know that? Because the flag they're flying is a war flag. This is not the war flag. This is the peace flag, the one I fly out here at the Freedom Compound. That's the American flag right there that you fly in peace. The Stars and Stripes is the war flag, but their Stars and Stripes has gold fringe sewed around it. You know why?
That's right.
Yeah, because it's a captured flag. It's
Yeah.
Admiralty jurisdiction.
law.
They're bringing in, yes, they're bringing the law of the water in on the land, and it's foreign jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. It's military. So it's
Tom,
all a big game, all a big ruse.
You did a good job, Tom. The only thing I would add is that you're going to be appearing sui juris,
Sui juris, yeah.
because he's going to assume that you're appearing pro se. And pro se is a loaded term that's been basically co-opted by the whole statutorial corporate scheme. And people who appear that way are not treated as if they have constitutionally guaranteed rights like living men and women. They're treated as if they're the corporate fictions, etc. And they are treated as if what they say doesn't matter at all. It's like it doesn't even register with the court. So people need to know that. They still, unfortunately, don't understand the difference between pro se and sui juris, and that's super important. You've got to make that declaration.
Unfortunately, the American people don't understand much of anything. Now, there are reasons for that, and we all know the reasons. They've been conditioned and programmed and propagandized forever. And I mean going back to 1791. Okay. So this is not a recent propaganda programming position. It's been going on for a couple of 100 years. So after you do this to generation after generation, there's not much thinking ability. Now, people still have that thinking ability if they set the programming aside, but they don't. They live by the programming. And what we're trying to do here with the program that we're all in, and your program, Michelle, we're trying to break that programming, okay? We're trying to break that conditioning to let people understand that they have a brain and they can think. And they don't have to believe everything the government says, and they don't have to support everything the government does. I mean, Tom brought out before, there's no liberty, there's no freedom, never mind liberty. There's no freedom in this country, okay? Freedom is non-existent. It doesn't exist here. And freedom is not free, okay? Freedom takes responsibility. Yeah, it's not free. It takes responsibility. And true freedom has no restrictions. And Tom earlier in the program pointed out a bunch of restrictions. And that's only like 1/1,000,000th of 1% of the restrictions we have in this country. We are not a free society. And I mentioned this before. We live, and Tom brought it out too, we live in a communist nation. People don't know. They have no idea we live in a communist nation. But he brought out the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. We live those 10 planks. And our government has enforced those 10 planks upon us. What if the government, in doing the right thing, enforced the 10 positions in the Bill of Rights upon us? We'd have a far different nation. But we don't have a far different nation, okay? And what happened with the so-called Civil War, which was not a Civil War at all, okay? We call it the War of Northern Aggression. That started the real turnaround in this country. Then the 1871 Corporate Constitution fulfilled that turnaround. And since 1871, every Congress we've had in this country, including the present one, has upheld that unconstitutional corporate constitution that eventually made every state and every city and every police department, every school department, everything into a corporation, a for for-profit corporation. Where in God's name in the Constitution is it authorized that governments can become for-profit corporations? It's not there. Okay.
Well, even in these documents that I was noting to producer Ron before the show, the documents that you sent over, Jack and Margy, on behalf of Tom, I was looking at these, and of course, it's the office of the Secretary of State, and it says the state of Illinois in all caps.
Right.
And then when they address Tom, everything is in all caps. And so
That's right.
that tells you right there that you're dealing with the corporation, and that they are not dealing with John Thomas Olmsted III, the man, the living, breathing man.
Right.
And so
Right.
they're dealing with the all caps, which is another a corporation has to deal with another corporation.
That's
That's
correct.
right.
And so,
That's
Yeah.
correct.
They can't deal
Yeah.
with men and women unless you consent.
So they fraudulently treat you as if you are a corporation. So it's like a
so you don't have to
fraudulent way.
consent.
That's right. And that's why we are adamant about expressing who you are as a living, breathing man and woman on the land and soil.
Yes.
They can't
Now-
make any assumptions then.
And why is it that you have the headstones at the cemetery? Most of those are all caps.
Caps.
You're
Well,
dead.
yeah, it's the dead people. Now, some people will say, "Oh, it doesn't mean that." Yeah, you reasonably speaking, that refers to a dead entity. And remember that all of this chicanery started way back, and then they kind of presumed that the heirs were missing and unaccounted for, so that it's dead. So your name is turned into a corporate fiction, and whatever you supposedly had as part of this trust doesn't belong to you. Nothing you have belongs to you because the system owns everything. And that's why when Tom
And
spoke earlier,
you're supposed to be happy.
exactly, that Klaus Schwab's words. But when Tom said before, you have to free people do this or that. No. And how many times have you heard us say that the power to tax is the power to enslave? So if you're taxed and enslaved, how can you be free? It's contradictory.
That's right.
It cannot be so. So we have to look at ourselves and examine why we've put up with this nonsense for so long, why we've sat back and watched our country deteriorate, and our governments get more and more ruthless and unlawful every single day. We, the people, are accountable. First of all, we should be accountable to ourselves. We should be responsible for what we do. And we should take that responsibility seriously. You have to say, okay, we got to draw the line in the sand, and we've got to set our priorities. What's our priority? Well, I'd like to preserve and protect the constitutional republic. It still exists. It's masquerading, been hidden by this corporate nonsense, but it still exists. And we as a
Okay.
people have to know that. And we have to look to that republic and find our own personal way of doing that. And there's a lot of ways people can do it. One of which is to not comply with their nonsense and to show them that you know what you are, who you are, and whose you are whenever you have to deal with
That's
government.
right. I love
On
that.
on that particular position, the people have to understand that from 1860, and as I said more emphatically from 1871, when that corporate constitution was created, that created the corporate state in America, that corporate state overshadowed everything in America. It's like an iron cloak came down, okay,
Mm.
protected the corporation and expelled our original constitution, okay? And people don't understand this. They don't get it, okay? Like I've said before, the legislature makes the unconstitutional laws, rules, and regulations that the
Mhm.
governor signs into active law, and then the courts and the functionaries of government uphold that unconstitutional law, and people think it's constitutional law. They don't understand. And we're in such a precarious position now in America that the people better understand very quickly. And people like Tom Olmsted are setting the way, and we need other people like him to set the way. So listen to
All
what
right.
Tom said, folks.
Let's cover a couple of questions from the viewers. Kazadu77 says, great information. Boy, oh boy, I could have used this last year when I went to court, and I could have got them on their oaths, but I was so nervous.
Have to.
Insomatic says, what'd you say, Tom?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just commenting. You have to. That's the whole crux of the deal. because
Yeah.
the oath ties them to the Constitution. No matter what they do, they're going to try to wiggle out of it. But when you hammer them with the oath of office, you're tying them. If you read Article 6, Clause 2, the supremacy clause, that binds the judge. Article 3 binds the attorney, the cops, every other public servant. They're bound by oath to the Constitution. When they operate outside of it, they committed insurrection, they war against the Constitution. Now you can remove them pursuant to the 3rd and the 4th section of the 14th Amendment because they vacate their office, their pension, and their salary, and they can't receive public funds. So right then, they're done. That's the whole crux of the deal. And that is the stuff that's missing in the state national stuff. The oath of office, how powerful that is. That's one of the big things that was missing.
I think
And
it's the
that's
biggest
a lot of
one.
reason why people don't win.
Yeah, I
When
think
Margie
the
and
oath
I-
of office is one of the biggest things.
It is the biggest thing if
Key.
people enforce it. When Margie and I lived in New Mexico, we removed about 4 dozen politicians from office. Okay,
Police
mayors, senators, judges, cops. Okay, if we can do it, anyone can do it. All right, but you have to use the Constitution against your opponents, because the opponents will never use the Constitution to protect you. Remember, this is not a constitutional nation. This is a
officers.
treasonous
It's not
nation.
constitutional.
This is a treasonous nation. It became a treasonous nation in 1860. It was compounded in 1871. Treason was put over the whole nation at that time. And every government and every president we've had since then, no matter how you like them and how you hate them, every one of them committed treason because they've upheld the treasonous governments in this country. Excuse me. That's just-
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I want to get to a couple of more things before we have to wrap things up. And I wanted to share. So Enzo Maddox said maybe that's why dead people can vote. I thought that was funny.
Good one. I like that.
Question for Tom. Kent Bustles wants to know, great question. The city liable for damages like impounding the car? You spent time in jail. Like, what are you doing?
Well, that's an awful good question, isn't it? What are we doing, Jack and Margie? What we're
Yeah.
going to do is we have to hold these people accountable. The whole reason why I stood up earlier and got these court cases dismissed, which is a win. You take a win however you can get it. Now I can take my lawful effective action and I can have these guys removed. Okay. But now I have to go on what I want to call I got to take the offense now.
That's right.
And
That's
I've
right.
got to go get it. I got to go get them removed. And then I need to tally up all the constitutional crimes that were committed against me. These are felonies committed by these people in their private capacity. They carry a lot of money, $250,000 every night I was in jail, times 20.
Yes.
Just that right
I've
there.
seen that before. I saw where there was a gentleman that was pulled over. He ended up spending a night in jail, and he was saying that he was awarded $250,000 for it.
Yeah, Jack and Margie know that guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
what's his name?
so-
It doesn't matter, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Okay. Before we let you go, I wanted to talk with Jack and Margie about flock cameras too. But before we let you go, Tom, I know that you and Jack and Margie actually have some big news. I hear you have a new podcast and that you're doing together, all three of you. So it's called TO's Restoring the Republic. And you just did your first episode last Saturday. So tell us, where do you hear it? Where do you see it? I know producer Ron's putting some links in today's show description on the Rumble channel for the Michelle Moore Show for today's episode, but tell everybody.
Well, we appreciate that. You can catch us on YouTube and Rumble at TO's Restoring the Republic. You can also catch us on Bookface, TO's Restoring the Facebook. You just have to deal with me. Okay. My wife has to, you got to too. You'll also see shorts on TikTok and Instagram. So we're out there a lot, but you can subscribe at Rumble and YouTube, TO's Restoring the Republic. And we've started the three of us, we've started from nothing. We built the page about a week, 2 weeks ago. We put our first one in the hopper. We've gotten several thousand views on some of them, and we've got some subscribers now. And you know, we're starting at the grassroots level. Obviously, that's what we are, and it's a program, Michelle, kind of like yours. It's truth, it's information, and then in our case, it's the constitutional solutions for the American people, because the constitutional solutions is how we're going to rescue this constitutional republic back. I've got an analogy real quick, and then I'll shut up. Our constitutional republic, as Margie said, is still there. It's operating in the
That's right.
background. It's because the people have stood down and advocated their duty for so long. It's our job to keep our finger on them, not them to keep their finger on us. But the Constitution is like a blimp, and it's become untethered from the dock. And you know how a blimp, the ropes kind of hang off each end as it kind of floats away? And those ropes are, people need to go over and grab those ropes and pull it back over to the dock. Right now, that republic, that blimp is floating away, but those ropes are getting farther and farther up off the ground. And soon, we're not going to be able to get a hold of those ropes and rescue that blimp, because it's going to be gone. It's going to float away. And what kind of country are we going to hand off to our children and our grandchildren?
That's right.
It's a top-down police state now. Just imagine.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you
All
for
right.
that plug.
Absolutely. So BB Me says, so is this what Trump and others mean when they say, remember your oaths? It is the oath of office, and it is that oath that they take that is to the Constitution.
That's right. It is to the Constitution. But as soon as they take the oath, they break the oath. Okay. And what do the American people do about it? As I say, usually nothing. Now, some people may try, but as we all know, if you're one or two, you can have a problem. If you're millions or thousands, then you have the voice of the people. Okay. Now, before Tom goes, the people know that we discussed only 3 cases. There are 2 other cases that he won immediately. Okay. And all the other cases that went against him were overturned. All right. The Secretary of State of Illinois did that. And the state attorney in Illinois did that. Okay. So for those people in those powerful positions to reverse all the decisions and return all the money
back.
Yeah. Return all the money he paid in fines, which was $1,800 or something, $2,000. That's pretty damn good. So if Tom can do it, and we can do it, and our people, our thousands of people have done it over the years, the American people can do it. They just have to get with the program.
So, Producer Ron, if you'll put the link to the Jack and Margy playlist in today's Rumble show description, for those of you that are new to Jack and Margy or maybe don't remember, want to re-see, he says it's already there. Of course it is. We have a playlist of all the times that Jack and Margy have been on the show. So that way you're able to go back and watch the teachings, all the things that we've gone over. Those are how I know a lot of the things that I've said today, or even when Jack and Margy were on the last couple of times. It's through the teachings and the times that they've been on the show. It's not usually from always that we don't really have private conversations that cover a lot of this stuff. We save it for the show. And so those shows are invaluable. I know that some of you are asking about constitutional trusts. I will talk with Jack and Margy about them coming back and us going over that step by step. I already had planned on that, but today's show is not going to have enough time for that. Tom, I want to say it was a pleasure to finally get to meet you. I've been hearing all about you, and I am thrilled to hear the success and even getting your money back. I mean, that's just amazing. And congratulations on the new podcast. And if there's anything that we can ever do to help you, by all means, be sure to reach out and let me know. Anybody who is a friend of Jack and Margy's is a friend of ours. And look, we've been there too. We started out with no followers, no subscribers, no nothing, just the Holy Spirit showing me that I was supposed to do this show. And so I know it's going to be great. And congratulations on your newest endeavor. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Take
All
care
right.
now.
So Jack, Margy, I wanted to show you something that I came across this morning. And so while I had you, so let's look at this real quick. So there's a Flock tracks phones. I'm starting to think it's the phones, and I have something else I want to run by you, but I know that you all have been actively working against the Flock cameras in the data centers and have said that, hey, look, if you're in your community and you are working against this and fighting and standing on your square, that, you know, you would help those people if they would just
Yes.
reach out to you. And so I want to make sure to reiterate that. And then let's look at this video this gentleman is sharing about the Flock camera tracking his phone.
So we are getting this Flock camera. It's emitting this Connect 36295 Bluetooth signal. It will randomly emit that. You can see it right there. We observed it 32 seconds ago. I can start this back up and you'll see we'll observe it consistently. This specific unit is obviously set off by human motion. Whether that's taking a picture of me is questionable, but the IR element definitely is set off from human motion. As you can see, no cars are coming. There's that Connect signal. It's a Bluetooth signal. You can see at the top there, it's coming from the back of this battery pack. I believe it's coming from that white battery module emitting a Bluetooth signal. This looks to be a standard Falcon ALPR unit, so it's not going to be the AI video powered condo unit. The easiest way to tell is the camera. The IR unit is more towards the top of the camera as opposed to the Condor where they're on the middle. You'll be able to see this triggered by the cars. It's taking 6 to 8 images of each vehicle as it goes by, make, model, color, decals, damage, and then it's uploading that basically via LTE to Flock OS where it becomes searchable, indexable, and they can refer to it later. So very extensive system. Again, we're picking up that Connect 36295 signal coming from the what I believe is the BLE battery pack, or the battery pack on the back of here giving off a BLE signal.
Look at that. I have said that I absolutely believe that there's going to be a big part of this that comes out with the phones, but I am getting suspicious, and I wanted to share with you something that I'm smelling skunk about, okay? So a lot of people, a lot of communities are getting a lot of hope and going, oh, look at us. We were able to run off these Flock camera people. But what they don't know is Flock used to be partnered with a company called Axon. Axon is who makes all of this equipment that has to do with the police cameras, monitoring through, and I think, I could be wrong, so please, I think if I remember correctly, that company also has some ties to Israel.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It has factories in
Definitely does.
Israel.
Okay, good. So I was thinking so. So here's the thing. I want people to be aware of this Axon company and be aware that what they do is they have equipment that goes on the lighting that's already been there forever. Remember, we got street lights. This is not new for street lights. It's the Flock stuff is a new thing. And so, but remember existing street lights that we've had for years, Axon attaches onto those lights. And so I want you to be on the lookout for that. And don't have false, like, oh, yay, because we've had this numerous times now, just like in Tennessee, we had where it was like, yay, everybody was celebrating that there weren't going to be chemtrails anymore. And the next day, chemtrails were literally all over the place and everybody was confused. And so we had the guy on, Gary Humble, that explained that there were never any penalties, who was going to police it. It was all a bunch of nothing. So this Flock stuff, we got to keep our eyes on it because I'm smelling skunk. It's not going to be this easy, y'all. And so something else is going on. It just isn't this easy. Now, there is a website, a website, and it's called dflock.org. It's on michellemooreshow.com's website. If you want to go through there, there's all different kinds of resources, including Jack and Margy's. There's a whole folder just of all the documents they've provided as templates for you if you want to do certain things. We'll have them come back if you're willing to come back and teach on some of the things that you've taught on before, but we'll go through it again and kind of, I'm sure you probably got some updates to it anyways. And so we'll do that as well. But do you have anything to add about the axon and what I'm talking about with that? And if there's any concern that you've already kind of picked up on?
Everything you've said is correct. Okay. Axon was part of Flock, and then Axon separated. Okay. And is now overtaking Flock and growing very rapidly. Look, Tom mentioned all of the reasons why we don't have freedom in this country. This is another reason. We have a surveillance state in this country that is surveilling every possible person they can surveil. And they can see right into your home. They can see into your bedroom. They can see into your bathroom. I mean, this is a surveillance state that far surpasses Russia, okay? We've gone bananas here in this country. All of this is, and quick. This is all unconstitutional. This is all against your First Amendment, your right of free speech, your right to present your grievances to government, your Fourth Amendment, your right of privacy, the Fifth Amendment, your right to due process of law, the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment, the Ninth and 10th Amendment. They're all against these amendments. Now, if the American people as a society were to write tens of millions of affidavits to their local and their federal governments to stop this, we could get some pressure upon the system. Okay? Now, we've tried to do this before nationally. People just won't do it nationally. We've had to do it nationally before, just on our own, with success.
Well, how did the Brunson brothers get over 200? I know you were involved early in that, but how did they get so many letters? Was that over the whole dollar thing? And
yes, I think it was about that, and they basically cookie cutted them. We're not doing that. What we're saying to people is, we'll give you a template. You can go to our website. You have to use a little bit of your thinking power and put down your valid reasons. We can give you suggestions, but it's up to the individual. We don't want a bunch of cookie cutter letters because they'll just discount those out of hands. But when people put down their own reasoning, their rationale, and they can articulate it and associate these wrongful actions with the heinous crime of treason, because that's what this is, now these guys are going to say, oh, the people are serious. Because we haven't done, as a nation, as a society, we've done very little to stand up for our rights and preserve our freedoms. And if we don't do something very, very soon, as a nation, as a society, we're not going to have any freedoms and rights, because you can see what's happening. This stuff is rolling out. That's why they're pushing the data centers. They want a complete surveillance state so that no one has any ability to do anything in privacy anymore. And that's, to me, that's a complete utter disaster.
So Jack,
go ahead.
Keep going. I was going to say, I had a question for you, Jack. So in history, just historically speaking, I mean, there have been people that have been tried and executed for treason who have done a whole lot less than what's going on right now in this country.
That's correct. That's correct.
I think a lot of people don't realize that.
No, well, I don't think they do.
They have to understand that what I mentioned before, when the corporate constitution came in, it overshadowed the whole nation and took away our original constitution that's still there, but no one uses it. The system does not use our constitution. The system uses the unconstitutional laws passed by every legislature, signed into law by every government and every governor, and upheld by every court. Our system is totally treasonous, and the people don't get that, okay? They really have to get that. Now, if the people understand what a depravity this is, the surveillance state, what a depravity is upon them and their children and their grandchildren if we don't do anything. If millions of people actually followed the constitutional methods that we have, starting with affidavits, we could turn this around, okay? But if we don't do that, and systems go along as they have, and the people go along as they have by simply upholding the system, and they may speak out against the system once in a while, but unless they take lawful action against the system, they're doing nothing, Okay, so I urge the people to really get involved in your Constitution, because your
Yes.
Constitution is your best friend.
All right. Thank you so much, Jack and Margie.
Thank you.
We'll be, pull back Jack and Margie back through, Ron. I'm not done yet. I have one more thing. I'm sorry. So I spoke with Steve Jarvis today. He'll be back on Monday. And I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he's been on the show quite a few
Yes.
times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
okay, so Steve and I were talking today, and he had texted me a couple of days ago about the vote that happened where, you know, it didn't pass, where it was up for the American military being merged with the Israeli military.
Yes. Yeah. I know
Okay,
which one.
so
Yeah.
he's saying now that it's actually not gone away and that it's been merged over to some other stuff, the Save America Act. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know that there's something fishy going on because Trump has been pushing the Save America Act under the guise of election protection. I'm sorry, I don't believe any of that at all. I think what they do is they will merge bills back and forth. They move sections around because they want this merger to take place so that Israel is on equal footing with us, if not above us, in our own military. Folks, that is treason. That is a hanging offense. But for the Congress to even consider maintaining that section and voting for it. Now, I know you know about the vote. 103 Democrats voted against sending more aid to Israel and voted against retaining this section. But 312 or so voted to do that. So you understand that your Congress is mostly sold out. They are taking money from AIPAC and other donors who are affiliated with the Zionist cause. They are not, and they are not upholding their oaths to the Constitution, their duties to the American citizens that they are supposed to represent in Congress and in the Senate. So Americans recognize you've been sold down the river, and if you don't want this to happen anymore, you need to let your congressmen and your senators know how upset you are about what they've done, and you can write them affidavits. Okay, we've been doing this for a long time. You guys can do the same thing. Put them on notice. You're not going to tolerate their treason, because that's what it is.
What a lot of people don't know is that 94% plus of Congress takes money directly from Israel, directly from AIPAC, and directly from Zionist organizations. 94%. And many of those are dual citizens with Israel. That's treason. I mean, that is outright treason. We can't allow that.
So I had something else. Okay, so I have a friend who is extremely wealthy, okay? And she happens to, I think they're like childhood friends with, she is with Marsha Blackburn, okay? And so this friend asked me a couple of things back, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago about Marsha Blackburn. And I just said, look, I said, because I know people are watching. And there are people right now that are going, I wonder if my senator's good. You know, he's a Republican. He's a Republican, or she's a Republican, and she looks sweet. And so, you know, and I'll get emails and messages and stuff from people that'll be like, do you think so-and-so's good? And it's like, look, here's my rule. Here's the rule. Okay. I've got a rule. Here's the rule of thumb. And this is what I told my friend. I said, look, let me tell you something. When you've had all these lunches with her, you know, when you write these 5, you know, digit checks and stuff, I hope it's only 5. And so who knows what it is. But I say, has she ever told you about the truth about the Constitution? Has she ever told you the truth about DC being, you know, foreign land? Has she ever told you, like, has she, and have you ever asked her? Because my friend's awake and aware, very awake. And she said, as she asked one time, and Marsha came and hauled around and then changed the subject. And I said, until that woman tells you the truth about some stuff, and this is the same thing here, until they get on their social media, which they all could, until they get on television, until they tell you about all the things that are going on that are underhanded, and not just with something. I mean, none of them are coming out with anything. And so until something big breaks and somebody starts really telling, like at a whole nother level, then I'm sorry, you're not getting a penny and I don't trust you.
Amen.
And so it's just that at this point, trust has to be earned. It's not assumed. It's not given anymore. It's not, oh, well, the government's working for us. I'm past that. I'm way past that. And we all have to get past that. We all have to realize, and it's the same thing with the doctors, by the way, in the medical establishment. And so, and the bankers and everything else. And so we all know. And so the fact of the matter is we got to start saying, I just assume they're bad until they can prove me right. Or prove me that they're good. And so because they're not, look at what they're not saying, the truth they're not telling. That's what we have to really look at. It's what they're not saying. Back when I was a kid, I grew up with my grandparents. So it was a different generation. It was the generation where you were seeing, little kids were to be seen and not heard from. And you got a spanking just for general purposes. My grandmother called it GP. And so, you get a spanking and there was no reason. And so, okay, that's what I grew up around. My grandfather had been command sergeant major over Fort Campbell. So, and he was 6'3". He was a big old guy. So, those were who raised me. And one of the things that they taught me was when you don't tell the whole story, you're lying. And we got nothing but a bunch of politicians, state level, city level, United States level, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter if it's the House, the Congress. It does not matter. None of them are coming forward with the whole story. All of them are in bed with anybody but the American people. And so, I had a tweet last night or this morning I came across it. I retweeted and it said something about, really the gist of it was the only people not helped by the American people's tax money was the American people. Everybody else gets money from us. We can't even put the oxygen mask on ourselves and help ourselves. And we got veterans dying on the streets and people with mental issues that need help. And we're sitting here wondering if someone's a good politician or not. No, the answer's no. I can promise you the answer's no. So, okay. At 111, Andy says the data centers is all on YouTube. The data centers is for all information on all people for the new world order. Yes. Right. Andy knows which time it is. Then the mark of the beast, you will not buy or sell or trade under their rules. You can look it up that right away. Oh yeah. And quite frankly, the tooth fairy, everybody will be gone. You can't have a yard sale. You can't give your grandchildren $5 if we're cashless. Pammy Keller says, thanks for sharing this truth. More Americans need to wake up or this nation is lost forever. And she goes on to say also on YouTube, and we will need to be willing to stand up no matter the consequences. Well, Tom made a fantastic point before the show. I got a few minutes to speak with him. And one of the things he said is I'm going to maybe murder this, but look, if you're going to stand for something, you got to be ready to stand. And that might not go your way. He ended up in jail a time or two. Right. And so, what does standing look like? It might not be pretty. And so that's it. 111, Andy says they go in honest but come out crooked. That's old school. That is old school. I mean, we know about the Franklin cover-up. We've covered that here in great detail, where what they did. So those of you watching that don't know this, I did a whole deep dive on this a year and a half ago. So here's what they did. They would get senators and whoever, and they would invite them to out to dinner and get them, to a party. These men are away from their wives or whatever. And so they'd call some hookers over. And I guess that's what they're called. And so women of the night, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. So anyway, so then once the men were drugged, the ladies would leave and the little children were brought in. Do y'all see where this is going? Yes, this is what the Franklin cover consisted of, just so you know. It's not men with other women. Okay, so you broke up a marriage and now your constituents know that you're a dirtbag. Okay, well, I mean, we all know that Donald Trump's admitted to cheating on his wife and he's president. So that's not going to be a deal breaker. You have to realize what the photos and the blackmail would have to be. It's got to be way, way worse than some guy with a woman. Okay. All right. So I wanted to just, for those in the back that don't know, because I didn't know until a year and a half ago exactly how it worked. And that's how it worked. So we connected some dots. Jack, Margy, we'll have you back in the next week or two. Jack, you got any closing thoughts for us?
I just want to say something in relation to what you said before about the politicians. They never tell the full truth. Okay.
So they're lying.
And those who even try to tell the partial truth, not the full truth, get tossed out. Look at JFK. Okay. JFK really loved America. My family knew JFK. I knew him. Okay. He was a good guy. He had his problems. He had his, issues like everyone did, but he loved America. He tried to make it different. And as soon as he spoke out against Israel, boom, that was the end of JFK.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So anyone who tells the truth, like Tom Massey, look what happened to him.
Well, kind of.
Israel spent and AIPAC spent what, $38 million to get him out?
Beat him.
Okay. Look at Ro Khanna. Same thing is happening to him. And look at Green.
Marjorie.
They tried to tell the partial truth and they're out because we're facing absolute treason through our own government. And that's what I want to finish with.
Yeah, we're facing the enemy within. Make no mistake about that. It's very evil. It's diabolical. And if we really are godly people and we have to stand up against evil, anything that's diabolical. And that means we have to stand up for America because she's the only hope.
We have to do the right thing as a nation, not the wrong thing. Right now, we're doing the wrong thing everywhere.
All right. So we're going to work on educating on constitutional trust in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully you guys will come back and help us with that. And I appreciate y'all being here today. Tom was delightful, and good luck with the podcast. And we'll have you back too. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well,
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. So producer Ron already has the YouTube link for the podcast for T.O.'s Restoring the Republic. And that, of course, is with Jack and Margy Flynn as well. So just wanted you to know that. He's having trouble finding it from Rumble. So we'll get it and get it sent up and get it put in there for you. All right. We hope that you enjoyed today's show. Maybe learned a thing or two. That's what we're trying to do. Make sure that just know the truth. We got a lot of things that I'm realizing during today's show that I've taught before that we've covered in great detail, but it's been a long time, like 2 years or more, that I'm sitting here thinking back to stuff. And I'm like, maybe we need to recover that and go back through that. And so just like with Jack and Margy doing the constitutional trust training. So we'll look at some of that and kind of revisit and make sure that But Steve Jarvis is confirmed for Monday. And please keep Mark Taylor in your thoughts and prayers, and his family, his sister, his wife. They've gone through a lot of loss in the last couple of years, a lot. And so it's just been a lot for Mark and his family. So anyways, please keep them in your prayers. And we'll see you right here Monday with Steve Jarvis right here next time on the Michelle Moore Show.
Hi, I'm Linda Bamber Olson, the inventor of the Wave Watch, the world's first frequency therapy watch. It features over 1,100 targeted frequencies combined into 150 playlists for ease of use. These sounds are acoustical and they move through your body, through your skin and your bones. You don't necessarily have to hear it. As each frequency goes through, it can be realigning, revitalizing, reconnecting, and even rebalancing your body all the way to the cellular level. So that's why we have so many testimonies for aches, ADD and ADHD, allergies, colds and flu, dental, emotions, headaches, joints, kidney stones, nerves, organs, skin health, swelling, tremors, vagus nerve, and so many more. Use this code for $100 off when you purchase the Wave Watch. Thanks for learning about frequencies, using them, and supporting the Wave Watch.
Universal Coin and Bullion is my partner for gold, silver, rare coins, and precious metal IRAs. For over 30 years, they've helped more than 500,000 customers and completed over $2.6 billion in precious metals transactions. They're offering callers 2 1-ounce American Silver Eagles and a 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagle at actual dealer cost. Call Universal Coin and Bullion today.
Ever read the ingredients on your everyday products and think, wait, is this shampoo or a science experiment? If your lotion needs a translator, a lab coat, and a warning label, it might be time for a change. Godly Granny products are made with purpose, love, and ingredients you can actually recognize. No mystery chemicals, no toxins, just clean, simple goodness. The way Granny would have wanted, because your skincare shouldn't require a chemistry degree. From shampoo, lotion, skincare, and all natural health remedies, Godly Granny has everything your family needs. It's no wonder we have over 1,200 5-star reviews from our amazing customers to prove it. Join the families just like yours who've switched to Godly Granny. Visit godlygranny.com and sign up for our emails to receive a special discount code for 10% off your first order, plus exclusive updates and information on newly released products.
For Michelle's social media links, go to michellemooreshow.com.